the most part, people in the U.S. don't. They have no issue with money. They have no worries.
Nah, man. There's some people that have issues with money.
Well, I think most people have issues with money because they create their own issues, and most people's problems are created by their own self. If everybody was just like, hey, how many people out there do you think are really trying but just can't do it?
10%.
Yeah, but you know how many people aren't making it? More than 10% of the people out there.
Like 80%.
Yeah, a lot of people are not making it, but they're just not doing stuff.
I think it's like when everyone's complaining about inflation and all that, right?
Hold on. What's up, everybody? My name is Jay Cruz.
I'm Austyn Tokar.
And you are listening and watching to the Blueprints Brocast. This is our past 10th episode, so thank you for joining us. What were you talking? What were you saying just before we started recording?
So most people have already worked themselves into some sort of problem with money. So when they do have actual, life happenstance of inflation, things are on the rise and they're not getting paid as much, you should probably fix your money problems of what you're spending on, because you need everything you could probably get at that point. But if you knew how to handle money in the first place, this probably wouldn't be as big of a deal as you might think. And I'm not saying no one's going through stuff, like it sucks, but it's like you need a penny pinch. Like a lot of people just need a penny pinch and figure out, like, what am I wasting money on? Where can I cut? And then where do I actually need to put my money?
That's a tough one for me, because I think I remember when I worked at Dish Network and I would get a raise every year. I would just throw that in my spending budget. I didn't save it as much as I should have. I mean, we're doing okay now, but I think a lot of people, when you're just making just enough to survive, it appears as though you're making just enough, but you're usually making more than you think you are. But you want to have all these luxuries. You want to have the things right now. Like, oh, I want this, whatever it is, like these shoes or this clothes. And most of the time, that shoes or that clothes, it's not going to last you as long as you think it will, or it won't fulfill you like you think it is, but you're allotting all this money towards. I mean, just listening to that, whatever video you were just playing a second ago, where it was talking about streaming services. I guarantee you, anybody that has one streaming service has 3+ streaming services.
That's pretty easy, because you got Netflix, you have Prime. Almost everybody has Prime, right? And then most likely you have Disney or HBO. One of those would be your third.
Yeah, or Showtime or Hulu. See, but if you watch a lot of TV shows, you'd be on Hulu. Yeah. If you watch a lot of movies, then you're on Netflix, and there's still like TV shows on there too. But here's the thing, though. Is there enough entertainment for you? Like, again, entertainment is that's probably like the biggest industry in the U.S. is some sort of entertainment. Yeah. So do you really need to be entertained so much that you need 3 to 4 to 5 options? I think the main ones that people have are Netflix, Hulu, Prime, and Disney. Like those 4 specifically people have. I'm not going to say do you, because I know I have all 4 of those. Yeah. Do we really need that? And can you just cut it out and be okay?
Yeah. I think as time goes on, more is available to you, right? So we were talking about social media in the last episode. Like, there are more people on the internet now, or you're seeing more people because more people are on the same platform you are. Like, you wouldn't have access to people in Japan, China, Mexico, whatever, when you're in the U.S. because, well, you didn't have things like the internet back in, social media back in the 90s, right? You had MySpace, and that started connecting people more. And I'm sure they had other platforms, AOL Messenger and all that, maybe some email, but the same thing goes for technology. You have access to way more things now. So before, you would only have cable, right? You would watch whatever was just on cable, or you would go rent a movie. But now that you have all these different streaming services, you have to pay more to get more, and you want to be like everybody else and be able to watch whatever's new that's coming out for whatever amount of time, but also have whatever else you're going to watch in the first place.
I think the part of it is like a social pressure. Like, oh, hey, did you catch the game? Or, hey, did you watch this? Or, oh, it's only on Netflix. Oh, I don't have that. Okay, I got to get Netflix so I can watch these same movies and whatever are the same TV show that my friends are watching, and that's why Netflix, I think, went to shows that were specifically for them. Like there was no other platform like Stranger Things and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have to. It's kind of like how video game companies only made specific games for specific consoles that
Nintendo.
so you had to buy their system to stay within that ecosystem of things.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, and it's just like a fear of missing out. But like we've talked about before, if you just cut something out of your life and you just don't have it, you're gonna keep living? Are you gonna be okay with it? Like, can you live without it? And if you do it long enough, can you just say, I just don't want to go back to it?
I still think it's a fair enough point to say that wages haven't kept up with prices, and how many other things are more available to you to a certain extent. But you also have to consider, like, you're in that situation. You can't really change anything about it in the moment except for what you can actually do, which is, like I just said, penny pinch, cut things out you don't need. And then where you really need, double down on it. And then, like you were saying, you wish you would have put that money towards savings or at least investing in something. Anything extra you get, you should really put that in savings. Don't be like, oh, I have extra money to spend on whatever. Well, why would you spend it when you could be saving it towards something that's going to, be more productive?
Yeah, this all came from a question like that we just asked ourselves right before we got on camera of, do people really make enough money to live day to day? And is that what percentage do we think of people that aren't making it? And I think most people, if you live in America, I mean, the chances are you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing just fine, the odds are you're not doing what you need to do to make money. Like I find it hard to believe that somebody out there just can't find work and there's nothing for them to do at all.
I understand, like, a lot of jobs treat you like crap and you're not getting paid enough for what you do. Like, I'll say it all the time, Starbucks workers, they don't get paid enough for that job. That's why I would never do that job anymore. The way the corporate scheme kind of handled it, it's like they're basically a fast food restaurant now, but at a higher degree than other fast food chains. People are constantly coming in. You're constantly having human interactions where you have to do every little thing that people say. And you say, okay, I'll do that, whatever. And then you basically go, what were our break times? 2-3 hours straight of doing that. Get a little 10-minute break, maybe a lunch break, and then have your other 3, 4, 5, and 6 hours of the day to finish out doing that. So there are jobs like that, which the amount of work you have to do don't match up with how much you're getting paid. And again, these are just like starting positions, but they still suck compared to like when we were doing jobs and starting out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel for these people, but most like you have to do what you have to do in order to make it happen. Because otherwise, if you don't have any friends or family, we'll say, what are you going to end up doing? You're just going to complain, and what else is there?
Yeah. Did you see California and McDonald's are paying their employees $20 an hour, like starting like I think it's this month or like beginning of next month.
I have a weird feeling about big corporations. Part of me like changed from like it's hard to say. They should be getting paid more, only because like you look at how much these people are making at the top, and it's like I'm very for capitalism, but I'm also for like there's a new thought process of it. It's like there's like greedy capitalism. I don't know how people put it. Where like they're just making way too much, and it's more of taking advantage of people who are in the work environment, smaller work environments. I don't know how to put it. I kind of have weird feelings about it. It's just like there's capitalism to an extent, and then there's like this grubby system where it's like way too much. Like 'cause you can build something from nothing with capitalism. You can't say that for anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like you can literally create your own environment, have a great, amazing life, building your own business. There's nowhere else you can do that as well as America.
I hear what you're saying, and here's the issue with I think I know where you're going with like your feeling about it, and here's the issue. If they took, so this is what typically happens with companies, they have their what is it called? Their profits, and they try to make their profit margin larger all the time. Like their goal is always to make a larger profit margin. Now, if it's a company that wants to make that profit margin and then all they do is just keep the money, the top just keeps the money, and then they just do whatever they want with it, then yes, that company's not. I don't like the way that model is being ran. Now, if they are making money at the top, they're taking that money and making more jobs and creating more opportunities for people to work.
Reinvesting it.
Yeah, and like creating more businesses for people, then I'm all for that. That's cool because now you're creating more opportunity. Like while you will still be making more because you're creating more jobs and more, technically more profit that way. That's cool with me because you're still creating something. But when it comes to the point where you've made a monster or something, and then you're just at the top, just continually just skimming out the top and lowering and diversifying or spreading the margins so far, and the disparity between your bottom worker and the CEOs is so wide that they're no longer benefiting your customer as the employer is your workers. And if you're not taking care of them, I disagree with that, and they should be taken care of. But here's the problem, because I know what you're saying. Hey, give the bottom workers a little bit more. Here's the problem with that is that those people that work there, most of the time, I'm not gonna say all the time, but a good portion of the time, those people that are working there throw their money away in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you're giving money to them, they're not doing anything good with it. So like, unless that person's like gonna build something of their own, like, hey, I live in a capitalist place and I can make something of myself and I can make a business. So let me use this money that I'm getting, this extra money that I'm getting to do something with it. Then like, why would we do that? You know? So like if the society is flawed, and if the mindset of the standard worker is flawed, which it is, because again, we live in an entertainment country and all we want to do is be entertained and consume and get for ourselves. It doesn't, I don't know, the model isn't going to work.
Well, but here's what I'd say to that. Like, you don't determine what someone's going to do with their money, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think at least wages should be enough to where you can do stuff, you get paid enough to live, and then you have stuff like a little bit extra money. Like you're able to work that much to where you can have a little bit extra money to spend on a little something extra. Not a lot, but like, I don't know how you would account for that, but just like you'd be able to do at least something fun for yourself.
But which jobs are we talking about here? Because I think
we're talking about low end jobs. Like,
see, I think those jobs aren't for like, they're not meant to sustain a whole family. I feel like that job is meant like,
I don't want to say sustain a whole family. I meant you're just growing up. Like you're a freaking 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Right. You're just starting out. You're doing a job. Maybe you take it through college, and then after college, you get whatever job whatever industry you're going into. I don't want to get into collegiate institutes and how that pans out. But I mean, if you happen to get a job after that, you go into that field. But for the beginning jobs, those are meant to be for like young kids.
Yeah.
Like not working professionals, but people who are just learning what it is to take to start a job, get disciplined at it, learn the work ethic, and like, live life as a kid basically. Because you can't live life off of those jobs. Like they were never meant to be that way.
But that's the thing. So the people I think that are pushing that they need higher wages in those jobs are the people that are trying to do that job and then live this life where they buy a house and all that stuff. That's not what that job is for. That job is for learning, like what you said, work ethic, learning how to do a job, and then eventually you move on to something else. It's not meant to be like, hey, feed a family of 4, buy a house with white picket fence. That's not what that job is meant for. And if you want higher wages, you go to something that requires more skill. And unfortunately, this is the only way to say it, anybody can learn how to do that job.
Yeah.
So because anybody can learn how to do that job, you shouldn't get paid like a crazy amount of money.
I think there's a good portion of the population that gets segregated here. By happenstance, you may have got fired from a job. You have to pick up one of those jobs. And then, it sucks because it's not enough to make ends meet, but it's not for you either, but you have to work that job to at least sustain some sort of income.
Yeah.
To find another job, or at least to work to get some sort of certificate or do something to earn a higher paying job, go in another direction.
Yeah, I think that so for those that are in those jobs, the business model for them or the thought process is, hey, this is a temporary job. I'm either going to get into management or store ownership or own my own franchise.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be some sort of level of like building up. But some people, like, they just want to go to work, go home, and not think about work anymore. And those type of jobs are the ones that pay more, the ones that you have to take home with you. Unfortunately, I hated any job that I ever had to like go home and worry about my phone ringing or worry about looking at email and things like that. Like I always, like all of my jobs, they were all like that. Almost all of them. I always had to like be connected to a phone on my days off, and like, and it's the worst. So like, yeah, higher pay comes with higher responsibility and
But that's what you're supposed to learn anyway. Like you're supposed to learn a responsibility when you're first starting out. And then once you've built that, we'll say skill of responsibility, because that is a skill. Like you learn to be responsible. Then you can go into that avenue, whether it be a shift manager, was it Starbucks shift manager, store manager, district manager, going up the ladder like that, like her sister did.
yeah.
No, she didn't do district manager. She went straight to corporate.
Yeah, straight to corporate.
But still, it's not meant to sustain your whole life.
But that's like, so, I mean, this is kind of like what the whole podcast is about, why we even started it, why it exists, and like what we do is try and be better in everything that you do. It doesn't matter what it is. At some point, you can only flip burgers so well, and you have to do something better. With fitness, you have to do whatever you can to be as best you can. And at some point, you reach the peak of that specific thing you're doing, and you have to do something different to reach a new level or plateau. Yeah. But I don't think anybody, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I personally don't think anybody should be saying, hey, I want to flip burgers for the rest of my life, unless they're like, hey, this is my restaurant. I'm the owner of this restaurant, and I like to cook, and like I like to cook for people. Then yeah, you should be doing that. But it shouldn't be the thing that someone's like, hey, this is what I'm going to sustain the rest of my life on this, you know, a muck job is not. Yeah, it's not what you should be looking for career professional.
Every person should be looking towards progress, you know, throughout their life. You know, there's a ceiling for working as a burger flipper, right? Working for someone else, you know, you would have to keep switching jobs. Whatever job's going to pay you more. Eventually, you know, maybe you become a head chef somewhere. I don't know how the you know, how you transition from burger flipper to head chef somewhere, but I feel like that's the hierarchy you kind of go by, you know, whatever. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. That. I mean, you can flip burgers. If you love to cook, hey, go somewhere and cook gourmet burgers. I mean, I'm sure there's some place that is a high paid job that someone actually does that. But hey, keep trying to get better at least. Like go from McDonald's to being a chef at Red Ramen and flip gourmet burgers there or something like that. But like try and be better at least. Don't do one thing for the rest of your life and think this is just it and be just satisfied. There's a fine line between contentment, like, hey, I'm content, but then also like, am I bettering myself? Like bettering yourself is one thing, but the next step is like, am I bettering the world around me, the people around me, and is there something I can do with that? And that's why I personally, every job I've been into have gone into management isn't because, hey, like I've reached a certain level of me being able to do this job. Now I want to help other people do the job better. So I'm gonna become a manager so I can help other people.
Yeah. All I have to say is you're gonna have to hustle wherever you're at. You can't just complain about it. You're gonna have to hustle. Do 2 jobs if you have to. It's gonna suck, but it's only for a time. And then eventually, as long as you're pursuing something better, you know, you will get paid more later on.
Yeah. Our economy is bad, but it's not so bad that people can't find a job and live well, like at least decent. Yeah, right now buying a house, like good luck. Like, yeah, I know that's really difficult, but bare minimum, you'll be able to live in at least a decent place that is comfortable. I mean, okay, so.
But we can speak only for the economics of our area.
Yeah.
Where we are at.
I was just thinking about that. And I think that I'm not going to say that you and I are privileged, but we run in circles of people that think like we do in terms of like, hey, I'm going to be better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to school. Yeah. I'm going to, you know, just be better at everything that I do and somehow improve. So I know that there might be some people, again, this is a cultural tribal thing. There's somebody somewhere that is in a circle of people that aren't go-getters,
Yeah.
that have low aspirations, that just want you to make it out of the neighborhood without dying type of place. And I get it. Like, but even that person, if you live in America, you have the ability to change your start and do something else and go somewhere else. You might lose family, you might lose friends doing it, but what's more valuable to you? Like your well-being, your family's well-being, or just you, living it like some. That's why you gotta leave tribes sometimes,
Yeah.
or leave a culture sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, it sucks. Like, you wish everyone could do well. It's just not going to happen. Like, there's nothing perfect. It can be better, obviously, but you can't. Just to a certain extent, you just you can only hope for best for people, and then you got to do your thing.
Yeah, there's a saying that if you took all the money in the world, or this idea of theory, if you took all the money in the world, split it evenly amongst everybody, that all the money would end up being back in the same place, because people wouldn't change their spending habits. Like, there might be a few people that will change. They'll become an entrepreneur and actually build a business, and they've been like saving up their whole life to do that. But for the most part, money would end up in the same place because people would spend it the same way they spend it, and just throw it away.
Yeah.
Like, if you throw away $1,000 a month budget, if you're that person, you think that if you get $10,000 a month, all of a sudden your spending's going to change? No, you're just going to be just as irresponsible with 10 times as much money doing irresponsible things. So
In our group chat, I think this was last week, Thomas, he asked everyone, like, hey, would you respect someone more in one of these ways? Like, would you respect someone if they earned $1 million or if they won the lottery and got $1 million? And I think the main thing from that came about of, you'd respect what they do after the fact.
yeah,
It's cool. Yeah, you did earn it. That's really good. You should have, then that should just mean you already know what to do with it, right? You know what to do with that $1 million, because you earned your way to that, because you had to earn $10 first, then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, 100,000, $1 million, right? So you earned all that money. You know how to reinvest it. Now, the lottery guy, and most lottery people, they just, dump it. They end up in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
But there are a few who know what to do with the money after, So it really comes back to, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, and it's hard, actually. If somebody out there, if you ever win the lottery, don't spend it. Like, I know that's a really hard answer, or a hard thing to hear, but I mean, let's be honest. If you're listening to this right now, the odds of you winning the lottery is slim to none. But if you were to come into a lot of money, like, don't spend it. I've had people that they're in debt, right? Maybe just 10 grand in debt, but then they get like they get some sort of tax break where they messed up on their taxes, and the IRS is giving them a bunch of money, and instead of getting out of debt, they're like, oh, let me go buy a car. Like, I have a great down payment right now. Let me go buy a car. And it's like, see, people that are bad with money are just bad with money. Like, they think that it's a gift. Like, ooh, I got this thing. Yeah, that's a gift to give you some breathing room to get out of that debt. Or, hey, use that to refinance your car and bring your interest down. So now your monthly is more comfortable, or like, do something good with it to better your life. But people aren't like that, man. Our society isn't taught to do that. Our society is taught, hey, what do you want right now? Hey, I got a piece of plastic here that if you just swipe that piece of plastic, you're going to get it right now. And you can just pay it in payments over the next 18 months.
Yeah.
But that $100 item turns into like $1,000 because you paid $10 on it, and then $9 goes back onto the card. And then you paid $10 again, and then $9 goes back on the card. So you're only paying $1 a month for 18 months or whatever it is. It's people don't understand money. And it's the reason why people have like 8 different streaming services, and
and then like multiple spending services.
Yeah, and the thing is even if you can do it, like I would encourage people out there, just because you can do something, like, ask yourself the question, should I?
Yeah.
And I'm there right now, like, as we're talking, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can get rid of one of those. I'm not sure which one I'm going to get rid of. I'm like, well, I get together with the family and like, hey, which ones do you guys watch? If none of us watch this one, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
There's no reason. I remember when I was younger, I'm not going to do it. I'm about to do. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna
No,
do
no,
it.
no, no. Because I was gonna bring it up too, but then I was like, maybe this will be the episode.
No, this is
No,
gonna,
no, 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 no.
listen. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'll say it differently, so I don't have to do what you're thinking and I'm thinking. Now that I'm in my older age and I have kids, I've become a dad, and what I do is, when they leave for school, I walk the entire house and I check for lights. I'm turning the lights off. I will check the stinking thermostat like every couple days to make sure that they don't lower it and make sure that's where it's supposed to be. I check their windows to make sure they didn't open it because they just wanted a cool breeze overnight and that is closed. Like I do all of these dad things to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. And even with money, like so my sons, they're great with money. When they get money, they just save it. They don't spend it at all. The girls, dude, so they just dog sat for one of our neighbors. They got paid. Immediately, Kinsley's like, ooh, I want to buy a bike. She got $125. She looks on Amazon or wherever it was. Ooh, here's a bike for $120.
Yeah.
Like the height of her full income, and she just wants to full on spend it. I'm like, that's not smart. Now the boys, every time they want something, they do research on it first. They say, ooh, do I want this? And then they'll wait a week or two, and if they still want it, then they'll get it.
Oh, we're talking about like video games, huh?
Yeah, it's a video game
Yeah.
for them. But at least what they want to buy, is like $60, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Where my daughter wants to blow, twice that on a bike. Well, while the bike, she'll probably use it a lot more. Just their spending habits are different. But here's the thing, though. They'll buy snacks. Like the girls will just buy random chips. They go to the store and buy some chips, whatever else. And it's like, we pay for your food, so why are you buying food? And the boys, like each of them has, hundreds of dollars that they've saved, they hold. And the girls always have like, $25-$50 laying around, and then that's it. So they never can buy anything really.
I think that's how I was as a kid, though. I would have money, but see, the thing is, when you have cash, you're less likely going to spend it because it feels cool when it's in your hand, and you're like, look at all this money. Like, so when you're like 12 years old, and you're looking at all these $1 bills, $1 bills, and you have that 100 in there, it's like, I don't want to spend this. I want to keep this in my pocket, right? But like, if you have that on a card or just on your phone, it's like it doesn't exist, right? So you're scanning something, paying it, scanning something and paying it.
I remember the story you were talking about. I don't know whether it was on the podcast or we were talking about in the gym, where you were trying to pay for gas.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on that.
Yeah, see, if I had cash in hand, I wouldn't have had that problem. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm running pretty low here. So, but if you can't see it, you don't know, right? So it feels like it's imaginary. And this is why I think a lot of people are really bad with money, is that they can't physically see how much they have. So like, oh, it's just imaginary, and I'm just going to buy this because I probably have it. You know how many people don't check their bank account? It's painful, man. It's painful to check your bank account, especially if you're doing really bad. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I hope I have this much money in your check. And you're either two ways. You're in two directions. You're like, oh man, I feel I'm cool. I'm good. And then you're like, you start crying a little bit. You're like, there's nothing in there.
Dude, what I found is that when my bank account, the higher it gets, the less I want to spend, because like the first time you hit like $1,000, you're like, ooh, I want to keep it above that threshold. I never want to go below that. So when I go over $1,000, then I'll spend whatever's over $1,000.
Yeah.
Then at some point you come into a little bit more money. You're like at $5,000, and you're like, oh, okay. So anything that goes over 5,000, I'll spend that. But 5,000, I'm keeping it at that.
Yeah.
I think there's at one point, our bank account got to a number where I was like, I would have never thought that it would be here. It's staying here, and never want to go into that. But like, it becomes a game where it's like, oh, what can I save? Once I started doing that, then I'm like, I got to a point, I became more charitable, like my mindset, and I was like, how can I help somebody else now? Like I'm okay, I'm good. How can I help somebody else? And I don't think I'm great with money. I'm just better at like not wanting to spend it. And before, I used to sell everything. Like if I wanted to like get rid of something, I would sell it because I wanted to make money. Mm-hmm. At some point I stopped doing that, and I was like, I have something that somebody else could benefit, and I can give it to them. So like I can't tell you what I've given away because then it's not charity anymore. But because I don't want to toot my own horn.
Yeah.
But there's been times where I just given something away where somebody else is like, dude, you could have sold that for money. But I'm like, I have what I need. And that's that mentality, what you're talking about, the CEO of a corporation where they have so much, but then they're still trying to get. Like I can't do that because I have a bleeding heart for people that don't have. So I just give stuff away at that point because what I wasn't using it. So why would I make you pay for something I wasn't using?
I think like when you are like very well off, like that becomes like a second nature thing. It's like, I don't really need this, man. Unless you're pretty money grubby and you're like, what can I get out of this? I mean, that's a cool trait to have to an extent because it teaches you like, oh, how can I make more money and reinvest whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's also a part of you that's kind of like, hey man, you're being a jerk.
Yeah. Oh, he can have my scraps.
Yeah.
You just have to have a mindset where you're not either way, where like you don't feel too sorry for somebody. Like when someone asks me for stuff, I almost never give when someone asks because I don't know. I just don't like the way that it feels when someone asks me. But if someone tells me their story and I see what's going on and I actually see like the struggle, then I'm more apt to like give in that scenario where I'm like, oh man, like I feel your pain. I've been through that. And I give them something when they don't even ask. And it's just, I don't know, it's just better that way. And then people know that, oh, I asked Jay for this and he just gave it to me. I'll never have that story go out there so that somebody else just starts asking for stuff because that's the worst.
Yeah.
When people come out the woodworks because they find out you have money. I had someone ask me because they were doing something, ask me for money. And I was like, no, like, are you working right now? You're not working, but you're asking me for money. No, go find a job. Yeah. Like if you're struggling and you had a job, maybe I'd help you, but you're not even trying. You're not even trying. So.
Yeah. If I ever do something charitable, it's always in a very discreet way. Mostly it comes to like, when I'm dining out, I tip very well.
Because you've been a server before this too.
It's really discreet. No one's going to know. I mean, they might brag to their coworkers, but it's like, it's very discreet. No one else is going to know. Like no one knows what kind of tipper you are. That's you know what, by the way, if you're going to do any job to start out, if you can start out as a server, that is the best job you can do because that's usually money in your pocket that night. Like you get it that night almost every time, right? It teaches you to have more responsibility because you're responsible for that table. Everything that happens that night is your responsibility. Like sure, if the food's like well done, they wanted medium, then that's probably not your fault, but you're acting as an intermedium between what they want and what the restaurant can do for them. So it gives you a different avenue to like, how would you say?
You have your own vested interest in doing well.
Yeah,
right?
you want to do well because you're going to get paid more.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think like the tipping culture is pretty bad. But like
nowadays
in the restaurant business, it's cool because this is what they live off of.
Yeah.
And it's service based. I don't want to tip someone when they're handing me a cup of coffee. I hate that. And they turn around the screen. They're like, hey, just press this button. We'll be good to go.
Bro, I've had that conversation so many times with people to where like, hey, like I'm in a drive-through, like you're not bringing it to me. You're in a window and you're giving me a cup of coffee and you turn this little screen around and tell me like, hey, like it's completely optional. Well, my option every single time for that is I'm not tipping you. I'm already paying you for what you're giving me. Yeah. You didn't do anything extra whatsoever. Oh, can you actually please not talk while we're doing this? Like I'm not buying this and a conversation. Yeah. Like, can you please like not like, because when you know that like the conversation is not genuine, I don't want to talk. If you're required to talk, like it's cool. You don't have to talk to me. Just give me the coffee that I'm already paying for, and I'm not going to give you extra. Like
that's why it always seemed like there were regulars I loved at Starbucks. Like they were really cool. I loved to have conversations with them. Mm-hmm. But like there's other people I felt like I had a fake smile and like, oh yeah, I need a tip here.
Oh, I was talking about Dutch Bros, bro.
I know you're talking about Dutch Bros, but that's why I was relating back to coffee. I'm like, oh, let me smile really hard here. I'm just giving you a cup of coffee, but maybe you'll throw a dollar bill in there.
Yeah.
But that's why like when you're a server, there's multiple points of contact, right? There's like 3 or 4, maybe 5, even sometimes. So you can tell if it's authentic or not.
Yeah.
Like you tell if they're just faking it, And I don't really care either way. It's kind of like I'm gonna give you a decent amount, you know. But
Yeah.
you can still tell like, hey, the server is a good guy. I want to do something nice for him.
Yeah.
Rather than like you're in the drive-thru getting your cup of coffee, this guy's just faking right now to get that tip.
I think the other good thing about being a server as a first job is that you learn patience. You learn how to become patient. Otherwise, if you're not patient, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
Because you're going to say something you shouldn't say either, you know.
Either to the chefs or to the
Yeah,
guests.
exactly. And then you also just learn how to interact with people. Like that is invaluable for any job that you will get after that. Not just customers, but also just other employees. And like, that's just a really good skill set that you get from that. And, you know, we're also talking about specific places that you serve, because you can't just serve anywhere and get that experience, because there's places where you serve and you don't have to do a good job at all.
I worked at Bubba Gumps to start out. I mean, I still did a really good job. I made sure like everything's cool, but like there were servers there. I'm just like,
yeah, just throw the plate at them and whatever else. Like, oh, and then you know what drives me crazy when somebody, like when you get like waters, whatever it is, and then they come back to like refill you, and they just refill you one time, and then you don't see them the entire time until the check comes, like ever again.
yeah.
But I don't know. There's a hard like balance between that, because sometimes you're all set. Like you don't need anything. They give you the food. You don't need to see them ever again. But then there's like sometimes you're like, oh, but this. And
But this is why serving teaches you about people. It's like you have to be able to read them and understand people to give them better service. Like I've worked at grubby spots like Bubba Gumps. And then I worked
grubby. You say grubby spots?
It's pretty grubby there. Like they hired ex-cons to work the kitchen.
Oh.
It's grubby. Then I've worked in fine dining where you're making like $300, $500, $700 a night. And like, I think fine dining is where you really get to understand people. It's because a lot of people want to talk to you, but then you have to be able to like, you know, shift the conversation because they want to talk to you too long. You have other tables. It's fine dining. You got to make sure everything's set before every meal. Then you have tables that don't want to talk to you, and it's fairly easy to tell right from the get-go. But you don't want to be that server's like, oh, I'm gonna make them laugh, make them smile tonight, so I get that tip. No, they just want you to do your job.
Yeah.
And if you just do the job, don't bother them. They just want to have a nice meal with their family or cohorts, whatever. They'll tip you very well, right? So that's why I like service-based jobs, because it's based off of, you know, your pay is based off of what you do. It's kind of like having your own business.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you provide, that's the reward you're going to get. You know,
I
a good amount of time.
Can I hear today's specials? Hey, can you cart me out the dessert trays? I want to see what we got working today.
I've never worked at a restaurant that do dessert trays, or they do like the flambe in front of you. That I think that's dorky, but apparently that's real serving. I don't know.
Yeah, where you make the guacamole at their table. You ever seen that?
I've seen that video. I've seen this lady. Nah, never mind. Forget that. Too many times seen that stuff.
Yeah, all that to say is that if you are somebody that is not making enough today, there's two things you could do. You can either choose to get a better career, or like what you said in the very beginning, man, penny pinch. What are other things that you've done? I'm sure you got into a bind at some point where you're like, man, money's running low. I gotta like, you know, cut the fat. What are some things that you've cut out to not like make more income, but to make your dollar stretch further?
I think you have to be very realistic about your situation. So it sucks, and you got to understand it sucks, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that. they're like, they think their whole life sucks. No, it's the situation you're in. Like, what's causing that? Obviously, we're having money issues. So how do we fix this? So first, understand you don't like the situation. It sucks to be in. You can't buy what you want. You can't do what you want, and you're going to have extreme anxiety because you're worried about your future and what's going to happen. Now, if you had money, you wouldn't have anxiety because you would know, like, I have money, I'll be fine. Next, I would like look at your finances. Like, how much money do you have? Like, take a hard look at your bank account. No one does it.
Actually look at it.
Actually look at it. Look at the number in there. Look at your savings. Look at your checkings. Whatever investments you do have, check that out. See what you have of stock, right? Or see, not actual stock, but see what's in stock. You have money? Do you not? Right. From there,
either I have it or I don't.
Yeah. From there, check out your expenses. Like, what are you paying for, and then what can you get rid of? And then at that point, you're kind of like, okay, now let's look at everything as a whole. Like, this is how much money I have. This is my expenses. It's kind of like counting macros. If you're in a deficit of calories, you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
So if your expenses are higher than your income or what you have in there,
You lose your money fast.
Yeah, you lose your money pretty fast. So just make sure your expenses are lower than your income.
I think the first thing that people should take a hard look at is what they eat. Because I think that people always think, oh, well, I have to have my Starbucks, or I have to have my Dutch Bros, or I have to eat out, whatever. Or I have to go out on Friday and have these drinks. Like, there's a lot of money spent in food.
Yeah.
That, hey, you cut back, and guess what? You're eating the true bodybuilder's diet. Like, and it's super cheap if you do it right. Yep. You get a bunch of rice, because rice is super cheap, and then you're eating just veggies and chicken. That's it. That's all you're having. Like you're going to get all the nutrients you need. It's going to be super bland, but you're not going to be spending all this extra money on, like, you're getting steak and all these other things that are expensive. Stop eating out. Like, that's the very first thing I'll say, stop eating out, because if you eat out one time, that money that you spend for that one time eating out will have been like probably 2 days worth of just standard food if you did it right.
Well, 2 days of bodybuilders meals.
Yeah.
So that's 5-6 meals right there.
Yeah. So that's and I think people, they don't realize that people, they don't realize that they eat very luxurious.
Yeah.
Not just for America. Well, not just for against any other country, but for America, they eat very luxurious and more than they need to.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I would say, what are you laughing on?
Because you were like, first, are you eating out? You need to mark that on the list. Cut that out. I was kind of thinking, like, are you fat? Well, then you probably got a few weeks of not eating. You can save some money there.
Full on fast. Yeah. You can go down to one meal a day.
Yeah.
And be good. You will be fine. You will not die if you eat one meal a day and you just do some hardcore intermittent fasting, and you'll probably benefit from it. To be honest, you'll have a lot more mental clarity instead of eating a lot of just like sugar and randomness. The second thing is to stay moving forward is just what am I spending on entertainment? Like, where am I spending the money? Is it I'm driving places? Am I going to the movies? And then, like what you said, like, we keep hitting on streaming services, but that's the only thing I feel like is like extra sometimes that we spend money on in entertainment, like movies. Again, am I going out with my friends? Am I spending money on alcohol to go, to the club or whatever it is? I don't know what people do these days. I've never done that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm paying for extra right now that I shouldn't be paying for. So with Spectrum, you have to have a home service, router to have their mobile business, right? So we're paying for mobile, and we're paying for, basically a router that we don't use because it's back in Reno, and I have a whole different internet service.
Oh, trash.
So it's like, they didn't tell me that after the fact though. So
if you start with them, you can't move.
You can move it, but their internet sucks. So we're looking at changing providers, but again, you don't learn it to after the fact. So that's like almost $100 extra a month paying for that.
I don't really have, okay, so those are two tips we had in terms of like saving money, but I think, like, how would you, what's something you would tell people to make money? Like, hey, now here's how you use the money you have to make more money.
The easiest thing to do is get another job. You have to look at, cost effectiveness or time effectiveness. Let's say you're spending 8 hours every single day, well, for 5 days a week, working the 40 hours. How much more time can you add to that without overdoing it? So maybe 20 extra hours. So 60 hours a week you're working. It sucks, but you'll have to do it just for a time. It's not going to be for forever. I think the second avenue is just like sell things that you don't need. So eBay stuff. I think Gary Vee popularized the garage sale things. Buy things at a lower cost and make sure they're worth something, and then sell them again on eBay, Amazon, whatever. Or learn something that people want to learn about or want to know about, and then sell your knowledge. So, it could be the dumbest thing too. There's a niche for everything. People talk about, what is it? Hot Wheels. Talk about Hot Wheels, and people will buy guides on Hot Wheels and all these other things. It's weird, but you can make money doing anything.
I think I have a friend that has a Hot Wheel collection. Her dad has a Hot Wheel collection and knows a lot about it. And if you just sit there and talk about your stinking Hot Wheels on YouTube,
Yeah.
there's kids and grown-ups that are Hot Wheels collectors, and they'll watch your videos just to hear what you're talking about.
But I think about all the extra time you just waste on social media anyway, like we were talking about. Just make a video at that point, you know?
Yeah. And my tip would be is to start a business, like create a business, whatever it is. Like maybe you like photography or YouTube specific. Like maybe there's something that you have that you're interested in that you've spent all this money on already. You've blown all your money on your sneakerhead, and you have a bunch of shoes. Well, talk about the shoes. There's people out there that love shoes that will just listen to your stories, and you could eventually make money on it. But building a business is the best way to make money in the long run. Working for someone else is the absolute worst way to make money. Yes, you can make money and you can make a decent living doing that, but ultimately for financial freedom, you're going to want to start a business that is your name and selling something that only you can offer or that's unique to you. Julie, my wife, she sold mason jars for a while, and I was like, who's going to buy this? But she made a business selling mason jars, and she would make vinyl stickers that she would put on the outside of them. And her first year of business, she made like $50,000 doing just making mason jars. So if you have just a passion that you have, and you're like, man, I'm tired of flipping burgers. Well, think about starting to invest some of that time into building a business outside of that job. Hey, keep flipping burgers, but better yourself in a different way and build your own business. Even if it starts small, if you can replace your income flipping burgers with that small business, which I'm sure you can, then at least you're working for yourself and you're putting your own hours in and not working for someone else that you feel is like shortchanging or cheating you. At that point, when you have your own business, if you're not making enough, it's on you. Like you're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
So, man, that 45 minutes went real quick, but hey, thank you guys for hanging out with us once again. Again, we did not expect to talk about finances. It was just like a video that we had popped up a second ago, and that just came up, and it was an awesome topic. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Peace.